sir.
Kelly Miller. Oh,
How you
yes.
doing?
It's that time of the week, that
I know, I'm excited.
night
I'm
that
excited about this one.
it's like every other week, but you spend that whole time as you do, obviously busting your tail out there doing what you do. Some of the the things I just do to try to be a part, but to make this show the magic it is. And I will tell you, it is becoming that, because it's as you timeline things, you see that we start to get the guests that are more and more into the different disciplines that there are in the paranormal world, between paranormal cryptids, and obviously things of UFO and the like. And speaking of which, I'm doing amazing, but I'm really excited for tonight.
I know, me too. Me too. And shout out to my dad, who's going to be the #1 viewer tonight. I'm pretty certain he's super excited about this one. Like, this is right up his alley. So, Dad, you better pay attention.
How could it not be? Here's the thing that I look at, and I'm really excited. Excited is just that. Tonight makes the first night in all my times of the things of the paranormal and the world of cryptids and Bigfoots and UFOs, that tonight we get, having a guest that I've got to have and share this special time with, that is in the world of UFOs. This man is known by many, but is the state director in Maine of MUFON. And with that, you gotta think that comes a that comes with a title. Not only that, but hey, you're somebody, because you're the guy who people reach out to for these type of events. And my hat's off to it, literally, because that's some interesting stuff. On top of everything, the government's now getting into with kind of releasing some information about UFOs. So, ladies and gentlemen, and all of our love and light listeners, for tonight, here we go. The man we bring to the stage, the one, the only, Mr. Fred Richards. Woo! Yes.
Oh, hey, thanks for having me. What a great show. All right. Good night, everybody. I can't beat that.
That's all you needed, right, Fred?
I can't beat that at all.
I mean, but the excitement is there's so many people that have reached out talking about wanting to have somebody in this arena. And it's like you get to looking and thinking, I've got some very cool friends myself. But when you start to look at somebody at your level of where you are, that's a pretty cool hat to wear. And so the people who have reached out and wanted information, we strive to have somebody who's credible enough to answer these tough questions that we get from and Kelly can tell you, our love and light listeners, because they send in some questions like, you probably need to get somebody that's qualified to speak on that. So without further ado, you got the mic, brother.
All right. Well, first off, a lot of what I'm going to say is my own opinion and not necessarily that of MUFON. Right. I do this research for MUFON, but a lot of what I say is what is for me. I'm not an official spokesperson for the organization. So, a little about me. I got interested in UFOs as a kid when I had my first experience. I was a young kid. I woke up in the middle of the night. I saw a craft come over the forest. I looked out the window, saw it come over the house. I watched it go over the house. I ran to the other side of the house and watched it just head off into the forest. And I never felt I needed to tell anybody, which was odd, but that's just the way it is. And from there, you started, I'm at that certain age where there was TV shows like In Search Of, and, there's a lot of great UFO shows in the 70s. and it just kept building and building and building. And then at some point, I figured I think I want to do a little research on this, and I went to MUFON, where you could become a field investigator, and did that for a few years. Now I'm the state director. Now I'm also a member of the MUFON's experiencer resource team. Whereas people who have experience and they want to talk to somebody, I give them a call, and my job is to listen without judgment, right? Because a lot of people aren't very open about their experiences, and they don't want it to be all over the internet. So you just kind of listen and maybe provide some help.
Wow. Well, that you bring up such a good point with that, Fred, because one of the things is it for the people who've had these experiences, it's I think it changes you in a way. It literally has you to be like, can I really truly believe what I just saw, I experienced? Right. Was it real?
They tend to be guarded. They tend not to be very open about it. So the fact that I can get somebody to call me back is amazing in its own right. A lot of people fill out the survey, but then they become nervous and they don't want to talk about it.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Other than maybe you need to talk to somebody. Maybe it's not me, but maybe you need to share that event just so you can move on from it.
That's a good point.
And also, a lot of people say, "Well, I want to talk to a hypnotist." Well, you have to be careful with that, right?
Right.
Because it could open a can of worms that you can't close. So you got to be careful.
About how many calls do you get, Fred, or like the people,
I don't. Well, what happens is people do a survey online, and it goes to a central location in California, and then it gets fed out to the different members of the team. I happen to cover all of New England. So if it happens in New England, I'll get the survey, and then I will write an email telling them, "Hey, I'm here to listen to you, no judgment, maybe provide some feedback to you." It's maybe I'm not even sure at this point, because you just send them out, and maybe a third of the people will contact you back. I mean, I don't blame them.
Sure.
I mean, but I'm there. I tell them I'm there. Reach out.
Right. And I'm sure it's kind of a bonding experience for them in talking to you eventually, because they realize that you've also been through that experience. You're not just listening to them or empathizing with, you've actually felt what they're feeling. So I don't know if you share that with them, but I know that could be, the way that you approach them, a really big advantage.
Right. I share some with them, but it's really not about me. It's about their experience.
Right.
But of those third of the group of people, I would say a third of those have more of a paranormal experience versus an alien experience.
Wow, that's interesting that you say that. And that could it be that, in fact, we talk UFO, Bigfoot, paranormal type activity? Could it in fact be that every bit of this is in fact one big, just continuous line of activity?
I think it is. I think people who have multiple different experiences, there's something about them, right? Like there's something about you that you are open to it, so you're going to experience more things than perhaps someone who's closed off.
Good point.
Right?
There's a negativity shield, almost like a beep. I don't even see that. It's not. It's just, that was just a shooting star.
Right. People put things up for protection, which I understand. Sometimes you just have to protect yourself.
Of course. What are some of the common things? I say common, either incredibly unique experiences, but common things that people report to you, or when they have an experience, are there any things that are kind of similar in the accounts that you're getting?
Missing time, unusual wounds on their body. They don't remember how they injured themselves. Like, I can't go into a lot of details with the cases, but I've had people who've had wounds that under black light would glow.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Wow.
And, very symmetrical wounds on their bodies. It's not like somebody scratched them. It's like an actual shape of something on their body.
Sure.
Right.
Wow.
So there's already some really cool people that are jumping into the room here, and I'm just going to give a couple of very cool. We've got our good friend Flip. Cheryl's who's in the house.
Hey,
Robin
Flip.
Kills. Flips.
Robin.
Yeah. Thomas Cardo's another really great guy. Tracy Etronette Smith, our big winner. Steve Inigonzo, another one who's really one of our folks there that's with us. And, of course, our lovely and amazing Miss Courtney Peterson. These are some really great stuff. But I see something from Tracy. Got a little statement, something very cool.
I'm reading it.
Oh,
I'm reading it. I'm looking
Look.
at it. Right.
Go with it.
Yes. I know that Travis has been under a lot of scrutiny right now from a lot of people in the field, but having met the man twice and having looked in the eye and talked about it, I don't feel that he's lying. I just never picked that up from him. That's all I have to say about Travis. I think he's genuine in his experience, and the fact that he continues to share it with everybody is amazing.
Wow. See, that's when you have somebody like yourself that is respected, credible, got all the badges for the honor, and then is able to say, look, I see this with this person. I've really kind of done a little bit of research into it. I believe this person is indeed. That's really when it's like, that's pretty much speaks for itself.
All right. I mean, if you ever meet him and you talk to him face to face, you'll be convinced as well. I mean, there's no way anybody can keep up that kind of lie for that long without cracking. Yeah, because that's a lot of work. That's a lot of baggage to have to carry if that was a lie, and I just don't see it.
Exactly, and that's what you do this after so long. Is for the old days of literally, daddy or mommy's going to catch you in a lie, and they remember, right. That they're asking you a question they already know the answer to, and they're like, tell me about what happened in 1976. And then They've already got it and use something different. Funny thing is, it says, so that tends to lean towards the hello. I mean, especially when it's the right place at the right time, the credible person, and then you look at all those and say, kind of like a duck, guys, feathers, beak, feet, beak, the whole thing. I'm thinking duck.
Right. And there's a lot better ways to make money. Right.
Exactly.
There's a lot easier ways and a lot more successful ways right.
Got another question there, Fred. Already sneaking up on you. Thomas Cardo's in the house with a question.
The large pyramids. Well, I haven't seen anything that's convinced me that those were real. So I don't really have an opinion. I know I've seen triangular craft myself. They're not pyramid shaped. Those ones frighten me, but I've never seen the pyramid shaped, other than the so-called drones that were flying over the ship. And so, those were drones, by the way. They're not anything special.
So have you heard of? This just came to. I mean, have you ever heard of the 747 pilots that had a mothership over the top of them? I believe flying over an Alaskan airspace, and they got the communications from the plane to the tower. They're telling them, "We have a large craft over the top of it. Can you see this?" And they're like, "Yes, we do see something." And they're like, "It's not a commercial aircraft," and it dwarfed. It was like maybe a tenth of the size of the 747.
Right. I have no reason to doubt them. I've one of my early investigations involved an airline pilot flying over Maine to Canada. He was flying freight, and he had an experience where a craft came right at his plane. And he kept it to himself for a long time until he retired. And I was able to talk to him. And just talking to him, I don't feel he was a liar either. Right? You can tell when people are starting to make things up.
Exactly.
You
it's
can,
like
right.
These guys are like these are pilots, and even
Right.
some of the American commercial pilots, and then they kind of get told when they get back to the next city, they're like, "All right, guys, you didn't see anything." Well, but yep, you didn't see any. Now they're getting to be where these pilots indeed have a voice to say, "Look, I'm going with the right for me to, this. What if this thing would have hit us?" Because they don't work on the same communications
Right,
that
yeah.
we do with our.
They're not showing up, right? They're not on flight 24 radar or whatever.
Exactly. So NORAD and all the Steve's a sharp guy, Steve Inigonzo. He's got that NORAD also saw it. So apparently they were like, you see anything very large out of your right window, co-pilot side? They're like, yeah, we are. Apparently it was really large. Tracy, you see the Tracy little question in there where we saw plenty of the odd thing. This guy in the Arizona, Nevada. Let me. So that brings up a great point with Tracy. Another's great with her is that what is it about that corridor of the United States that is like an airport for these UFO type craft? What's the story?
Well, a lot of that is ours, right? That is the test bed for our new military technology. And if people are reporting, "Hey, I saw this weird craft," do you think the government's gonna say, "Yeah, that's ours"? Nah. Because remember the stealth bomber, the shape of the stealth bomber, right?
Right.
That was reported as a UFO for years before we flew it out at an air show, and everyone was like, look at that.
I've seen that before.
Right.
Golly.
But
Man,
I think because of that, it's a test bed for a new technology. I do believe that probably attracts an element from of the unknown as well.
Wow. So
how do you separate those reports? Like, I'm just like, how do you separate those reports, Fred? Like, do you have particular things that you get reported that to you strike a chord as military versus ones that get reported that you're like, maybe that's beyond military?
Well, you have to keep it right. There's no real military base up in Maine anymore, right? That we used to have an air station, we used to have an Air Force base. But that being said, Maine is also a training area for military aircraft. Right. Do you remember in the 1980s, before we had cruise missiles, they tested cruise missiles in Maine, and people reported seeing aircraft that could make 90-degree turns. Conventional aircraft doesn't do that, but you know what does? Cruise missiles. Right. So, but there's a lot of low-level training runs. So there's probably a lot of military aircraft that do fly over the state of Maine.
Wow.
But a lot of the reports we see are more of lights, which is hard to, make a case for.
Sure.
I've only had one really head scratching case, and it was a chevron shaped craft. And the witness reported becoming sick after seeing it. But what I think is legitimate is another person about 50 miles away reported seeing the same type of craft, who also reported feeling sick after seeing it. So,
wow.
Right, not every case is, the next Roswell. You know what I'm saying? So you just have to, like, I have some notes here. Since I started, can't look at those notes.
Whoops. Super secret.
They are actually. That's my ERT log. Can't share that. Well, anyway, right. So we've had a couple hundred cases, and maybe a third of those were unknown, which means we just couldn't identify what it was.
Mhm.
Right. It could have been anything, but there's nothing that I could find readily available of what those were. So, right. And that's what a lot of the unknowns are. But half of those could be actual craft. I don't know.
Sure.
It's a tough call. But
got some cool questions in the little room there.
Yeah. Thomas has one too. Can you see that one on the screen, Fred?
which one?
Thomas Cardos.
Right.
I highlighted there. It's what your opinion is.
I'd rather not give my opinion on any of that disclosure because I don't believe a minute of it. I think it's a big distraction. I think it's distraction, not disclosure of what's really happening. I read through that UFO report, and the only part that I saw that made any sense is, if we had more money, we could do better research. So that to me is a red flag. It was a funding document, not a disclosure document.
There you go.
I mean, I don't know Luis. I don't know his story other than I've been told on TV, but we all know TV has a way of, right?
Yeah.
They've got to fill the time. So people tend to make things up. I hate to say it, but that reality TV is not much reality involved.
Sure.
There you go.
But not all of it is made up. I feel that have you seen the show Expedition Bigfoot? I think for the most part they're trying to do legitimate research. They're not trying to just fill 40 minutes of television every week.
Well, it's nice too because you get a doc on board with these, which is something that I take as another level to have some sort of the research aspect with a college, other connection with education, and how it's being handled credibly rather than say some guy down the street, Bob over here, Dave or whoever, hey, I'm out here and let's go find this boogie monster. And they got their camera out there and they get a blob monster and they're called. So I think there's a level of credibility they add to it that certainly seems to legitimize, that those possibilities. So, and I was even before with finding Bigfoot, with Renee Holland, I do have respect for her. She's one of the consummate, individuals who will say, I've really got to kind of see some things that I can put, maybe my eyes on, and then get the other documentation with maybe some, footprints, hair samples, other things. Now, I would say the one in Florida where I think it's a skunk, it literally jumps across an entire trail down there where a truck could cross, and the boy and the witnesses got it on the therm, the FLIR. They went down and tried to recreate that, and they were like, "Okay, you can't do it." And right. Renee did say, I'm kind of, that's interesting. That's an interesting point. So I think the more that we add to that levels, that we tend to have something that we can say, it's could there a possibility? I think more people now, and I'll ask you this: do you think nowadays more than ever that UFOs are becoming to be more legitimized by the research, some credible evidence, and witnesses that they're getting in with the help of MUFON to give a voice maybe for these craft? Is it possible?
It is possible, but like I said, they're doing television shows. They're trying to fill up 40 minutes a week. So sometimes it becomes distracting to me.
Okay.
But I see Tracy's got another question here.
When you see them, by all means, you got it. Rock it. Right. He's got good questions.
Right. The energy in different mountains attracts sources. I do believe that. I think there might be something underground.
Wow.
Right. Just like like Rendlesham Forest.
Okay.
I've talked to some people that have done research there. They feel that there's something under the ground there that caused a lot of disturbances as well. So
Okay.
I
Okay.
right. I think right. I mean, we don't know. We really don't know much about this Earth other than what we can physically see. Right.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, see, and that's just a fair answer. Moving forward is I've got some friends. I'm going to be at an event out shameless plug out in Vulture City later this year, out in Arizona with Jay Yates and Maria Yates, and we're literally in an area of absolute just activity by the just almost constant from what from what I've heard, that if you'll literally sit down, put your eye to the sky and focus, there are more opportunities probably in that zone there than about anywhere to see these craft. And so that's it. I found that interesting with that.
Now, are you bringing somebody who is a dowser with you to see if there's any ley lines that cross the
Yes.
area?
Yes, there will be plenty of people. They sell them there. People use them there for the UFO type. If it's so, the baseline of it is, in fact, it is stemmed out of a UFO event. But they found that there's so much of that activity, they're starting to kind of open it up to where there's other possibilities to view and be a part of. I tell you, these two are great people. Jay Yates, Maria Yates. You look at Vulture City and where it's located at, and you're driving those back roads out there in that desert. It's like you can't help but to think to sit up on a ridge and just look in glass, and it's so beautiful. I mean, so yeah, there will be people that will bring those. So
nice. I see Thomas has a question about Bigfoot and
yes.
UFOs. Coincidentally, when I was a teenager, I had a Bigfoot experience.
Cool.
I grew up in the Adirondacks, northern New York. I was maybe 15, 16 years old, and I used to, grow up in the woods. I walked through the woods all the time. There's trails behind my house into the forest, and I was coming home one night. Well, it was afternoon, and I was struck with a sudden fear, and I wasn't sure why. And I looked, the trail went halfway down a hill and went to my house. I looked down the hill. It was standing in the middle of the trail. And
wow.
It's hard to describe the fear that I had.
Paralyzing is what I've heard. Paralyzing.
But I knew I needed to leave. I knew I wasn't supposed to see what I saw. I saw that, and I also felt there was some other presence in the forest as well, which I don't know what that energy was, but I turned and I slowly walked out of the woods, because you don't run in the woods. You know why? Because food runs in the woods.
Food runs in the woods.
Right?
You kind of just slowly backpedaled away until you went into the darkness.
And I know a lot of people who have had Bigfoot experiences and also have had UFO experiences. And there's also the phenomena of orbs. Have people seen the orbs in the tree?
Yes. And that's so interesting because, okay, you got me excited. I'm like, yes. What is it about these anomalies in Bigfoots of how they tend to almost cylindrical around these creatures? And that that's when I started to say, and I've watched these shows, and they've looked in the woods and seen on a FLIR a large, upright, bipedal, heat signature, very tall, very wide creature in the night that in about the area where wood knocks were known, tree breaks were known, that they see light anomalies around these creatures, which in fact bears the question: what is the connection? What? Please, I'm like, what?
I wish I had that. I wish I had the answer, because boy, I would I'd read 100 books about it.
There you go.
But I don't. I mean, it is a known phenomena, and I don't know if Bigfoot is a multiverse kind of being that with the orbs, as part of how he shows himself. Is just part of that. I don't know, because people have seen Bigfoots vanish in the forest.
That's it. That's it. There we go. There's another one. Bing, and that's number 2.
Right?
And watching the shows, the Indians have a huge connection with the whole history many years back in the caves with the Bigfoot creatures. And what they have found is that it's energy that suddenly vanishes in a space where 8 foot tall, 500 pounds, and they said that they've seen these creatures when they came in contact with them, that the Bigfoot suddenly does some sort of buries his face down, and then they saw him, and then he just was like in the movie Predator, where you see this very translucent type, like an apparition of this creature, and then it just slowly goes away, and then it just dissipates. And it's like, is that its defense mechanism possibly?
Right. We don't know. But it's sure fascinating to go out and look, right? To maybe see it.
I've got a dear friend who I'm going to be getting to get in touch with out later this year out on the West Coast, and such a great guy. And he's a paranormal investigator, researcher, but he's really started to really connect with the whole Bigfoot thing. And
because it's all connected.
That's what I'm thinking, and that's what I'm saying. And it's like, can we be the next ones to possibly document an event where this is something? I mean, I've recently got my newest FLIR. I'm so excited to get it out there and use it and have these experiences, because I'm a tech guy, and with that, these anomalies have some form of energy. They're there. They shape and form, and then of course, could it possibly be that those balls of light, orbs, elongate, morph into the apparition that we see as ghosts? And if that's the case, are these particular Bigfoots that are out there, then they certainly manifest into the living creature. It just is a constant, all the time, fascinating thing to just look at the universe and think, what is it? What else? What could it be? I'm just fascinated. I'm sorry.
Truly, it's an amazing world.
I guess we're going to get those answers one day when we get to sit back and see the movie Your Life, and then say, I got a question. Can I ask? And then say, what about this? And they say, this is why that happened. And you're like, I knew it. I told them that was the case. And so, oh my goodness.
What's the story on shadow people?
Well, so that's a whole nother. Have
you experienced a shadow person?
I've experienced one in NOLA, and people talk about a lot of places where there's paranormal activity. I will tell you that New Orleans, Louisiana, is a nest of paranormal activity.
Oh, I imagine.
Well, because look at the tragedies over time, the floods, the deaths, just almost in constant, where these people were there, they suddenly passed, and then it's like, okay, what happened to me? I was just on my way to work, and then maybe this happened. So, but yes, I was literally at a hotel where they told me they had to change the locks because the spirits were going in, turning the locks, and locking people in the bathroom. And they were like, nobody was in that room. There was one person, and the guy's banging on the wall, and the next door, literally is going, "Hey, help me! I'm locked in the bathroom." And they said, "Enough of this." So they changed the locks, and after that, it never had. They were just the turn locks, and apparently that's what was happening. So, and that must just be those fun little spirits that wants to say like, you know what, I died, but I'm gonna have fun.
Yeah.
So they do that.
I've had an experience like that in Maine. My brother lives in Boston, but he came to Maine to paint this house in a little harbor town. It was an old house, and I just felt that it was weird when I first got there. And he told me to like go inside because we grew up in a house that had some spirits, or I don't know what you'd call it. So we're both kind of open to that. And he said, "Go inside, see what you feel." And I can't. And you could just it was just thick. And he was like, "Did you see him?" Not yet. But I was in the restroom. They were all outside painting, and the bathroom door flew open and just missed me. And it's like, come on, guy, we're just painting your house. That's all we're here for.
And that's very good how you said that. Is when you say, "Okay, hold on a second. I ain't hurting you. I'm trying to make your space beautiful. Give me a time. I'll be out of your way." And you'll be surprised how people have said after they laid the ground rules, they said, "That's it. We're done."
Yeah.
That they were like, "Okay, we're cool. Okay, fine." But it's a matter of owning that space, laying it down, and then say, "I'm going to be up out of here," and we're cool. But I think it is what you were saying is if they can run you out of there and leave, that's what they wanted. But if you stand your ground and say, "Wait a second, I'm going to paint this place," then they're like, "Okay, cool."
They feed off that, right? That's where they get their energy, right?
Have you had any reports too, Fred, of people communicating with aliens in their recounts of what happened to them?
Yes. Yes, of course, right? There are people who, like I said, I listen without judgment, and some of the stories are phenomenal. But I can't share enough. But they communicate with them, but they don't really ever have a message. It's just random communication. So
Flip has a great question. Flip, our boy, sir, woo, Big Bad Flip has a great question.
I don't follow the Skinwalker Ranch show. It's a TV show now. It's hard for me to take anything from television serious. I'm sorry. It's just hard for me to having been invited to be a talking head on some of these shows and then watching the shows. I'm like, no, glad I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Linda has a great question too. She says she's currently at a location now in Texas investigating a house with ley lines, vortexes, and newly discovered portal. Do you think extraterrestrial beings can use these as means of travel?
I do, right? I mean, that's where all the energy lines are crossing. So the possibilities are endless of what's happening there. Right?
Yes, she did in fact have one that is very interesting indeed. I've got to be cautious about putting stuff out on the internet with the privacy of the homeowners. Is that being something I don't know if that's something that they per se would agree to, but what I would say, it was very intriguing, really interesting because in fact, wow, just that is definitely something. And it even backs up with what has been discovered in voice communications, that it ties to that as well. So that's another good question. How do you think, Fred, that portals are created? What's your thoughts on portals, and how do you think that they're actually created?
I don't know if they're created, if they're always just there, and we just happen to be an opportunity to see it.
Okay,
right. I mean,
gotcha.
I don't know if it's created. It's a tough call because, like, this is an amazing universe. We haven't even scratched the surface of what's here, what we can't see, right? So they are probably there, and we're just now able to happen to be there at the right time when it made itself visible.
Oh wow, man! Look at another great one from Tracy. She's got it.
Well, did I listen to Art Bell? Well, that's part of my fascination. I happened to catch him one night by accident. And of all the episodes that I caught him when he was talking about Mel's hole, right? And to me, that's utterly ridiculous subject matter, but Art made it fun. Art made everything fun of the paranormal. And the EVP shows that he had, those would keep me up all night listening to those, especially EVPs with children. You'd just lay in bed, would get the shivers, right? Creeping you right out, but you're going to stay by for the next one.
Wow. That's a good point. You know, it's when you get people like that are credible and you know that you had an interest in as well, they're very cautious in how they put their information out there as well. Because what is it? Our reputation is a phone call away. Now here's a guy right here. I got to tell you, me and Kelly absolutely love to give a shout out to this guy because let me tell you, our friend Bob Burnell is about the kindest, most right there, direct kind of guy in the paranormal. He's a dear friend of mine. I gauge a moral compass in life with this man because he says, "Well, Keith, what I'm going to tell you, this is how I feel, but this is what it is." And I'm like, "Thank you, Bob. That's why you're my friend." But he's a very, very sharp man, but not only tech wise, but a lot of the experiences and things that he's done. But there's his question. So big shout out to Bob.
Do you know where Bob's located? Because it says he's seeing a wave of sightings.
Yeah, Bob, if you could just put where it is that you are located, the town, the area.
Well, just the state, because I know California had a high number of sightings this past month.
He's up on the East Coast.
East Coast.
Yeah, Bob, you got the place where you are up on the East Coast.
Because here in Maine, we had 7 new cases this past month. So,
okay, yeah, but that's an interesting question that he brings up. Is it more now that? Okay, I'm asking if there is a wave. Okay, he says I'm asking if there is a wave of sightings. So I think maybe that's a general.
Right, okay, all right. I'm not sure if there's a wave, but it's summertime. More people are outside. So more people may be looking up than at their phones, which is always good. So, you can't see them if you're not looking for them, right?
There you go. Kind of like the fishing thing, huh?
Right.
So let's see. Looks like Prost has got something as well. We got EVPs that were come through, happen to be relative of mine that came through. I can validate it personally by the personal question was asked and the answer was given. Wow. So she's apparently EVPs. And so is there a particular, could it be possible that the EVPs we get on some higher frequency that are very challenging to understand, could that be coming from a level of an alien type communication or something that just we're not understanding?
Well, I don't have the answer to that, but anything is possible in this scenario or situation. Anything's possible. We're babies. We don't know the answers. We're looking for the answers. So
okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
So Tracy asked about the what types of equipment do you use to detect UFOs?
I use my eyes. I don't have any special equipment. I mean, I know that people make some things, but your best source is your own 2 eyes and a good camera. Because I got news for you: these cameras on our phones are horrible. It's horrible for shooting pictures of things. Because there's a lot of lens flare. There's a lot of reflection in those lenses, and you're not getting a good photo with their new cameras. They look great because they're super processed. If the best, look at the shots from the 70s were taken on film.
Oh yeah.
They look legitimate. They don't look like they were manufactured.
Well, that's the thing with nowadays. It's very suspect as to how things can be created. Now, I'm not sure if you know a man that I truly highly respect, but is a friend of mine, Ben Hansen. He's got does a show with UFOs and stuff.
UFO Witness.
Yeah, and Ben now talking about credible. He used to work for the FBI, and some of the technology that he showed. Went on a paranormal cruise and got to spend time with him, and to sit down and to listen to this man as he described some of the equipment that they have and how they will take stuff that comes in as evidence, break it down, go through, and they can literally say, nope, that's not the case. It's no. And then there's the ones that it's like, well, now look at this. And they'd break it down and say, this is probably something. Just because we've got better analyzing equipment to probably debunk those things that are in fact, just not real. And that's when it probably makes it easier for the folks trying to get out there and validate these events.
Right.
Let's see. There's some other VA Beach, huh? The Naval Yard. Oh, okay. Thoughts with naval type stuff, and yeah.
Okay, I see the question. Chances are it's probably ours then, because they're doing a lot of different training and testing of drone material.
Okay.
I mean right. I mean that's like the hotbed of it down there, right? There's a master jet base in Oceana, which is right in Virginia Beach. So.
Oh, okay. Steve Vinny Gonzo, good guy. Pennsylvania.
I'm not familiar with Pennsylvania, but I bet they have. I mean, any place that is dark, right? I mean, that's the best place to go see it, because a lot of the country's covered in light pollution. So.
And what type of outside things, like you're mentioning light pollution, what sorts of things should people consider when they kind of believe they've had an experience? Is there anything that you can give them that's kind of a suggestion as far as, I have to think about if this was the case that day, or if I experienced this as well? Is there anything that people should know?
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of resources, but a real good one is called heavensabove.com. It'll tell you, all the satellites that are flying over at that time, or your location. It'll tell you, because the ISS gets reported a lot, because people aren't familiar with, that you can actually see something that's flying in space. And they don't think about it. And Starlink, have you ever seen photos of Starlink, of the 30 satellites that are tethered? If you're not familiar with what that is, that may be a little frightening, right? Are we under attack? Because there's a string of satellites in the sky. That could be a little disturbing.
Okay, cool. Kelly put some of the information up there about the heavensabove.com.
Right. I think it's .com. It could be .org, but
okay.
Look into it, folks, until you might be able to come across it and some good information from there. Wow.
But yeah, it'll tell you what is in the night sky, and it's fun if you know what it is, right? To go out and look for satellites.
You kind of can do maybe your own debunking, which is, we don't have that at the paranormal, or ghost.com. What was that on that night that went across the hallway? I told you.
That would be so handy. Yeah.
Well, that would be handy, and it would probably keep a lot of folks alive. But anyway, Tracy's got a good little Tracy Antonin Smith.
Well, how much do they invest? Well, I pay to be an investigator. I have to pay a membership every year. And then the cost to be a researcher, you have to pay to do the training. And that includes getting a background check, because you're going to be having people's, we just can't, let everybody have everybody's information. And, everybody, it's just some privacy to the witnesses that has to be maintained. Because people are reporting these in good faith. So, I don't know how much the organization does, but I know how much I do every year, and it's not cheap. So,
Wow. So Bob's got a pretty good little thing there. Another question is Bob Burnell. Let's see. I know the paranormal we suffer.
oh, okay, yeah. The fake videos, and do you feel that the hurt MUFON? Well, MUFON is, I don't know. It's either good nor bad. It's what the can't even, the investigators do, right? It's only as good as the investigators. It's not. It's as a whole. I don't know. I don't really worry about what they do at headquarters. I worry about what happens in the state of Maine, and that's all I'm really interested in. That the people that I provide an answer to the people that send a report in the state of Maine, and to my experiences in New England. That's where I draw my line on the organization entirely. So, yep, I support
Wow.
them, but I'm for the people that I speak to and are reporting to me.
Gotcha. I
Right.
got
How
you
many
as well.
active, I know you can't go into details, Fred, but how many active cases are you working on right now for the New England?
I think I have 4 open right now. We just closed a couple tonight,
Okay.
and I got to make some phone calls. I just haven't had time.
So what are the steps to that, just for people who may have they've had an experience? You said they fill out a form online and then they contact you. The MUFON will contact you, that pertains to your area, and then
Right.
interview them if they feel so comfortable and kind of talk about their
Right.
experience.
We try to contact everybody,
Okay.
and try to feel them out, because there are people that provide, do hoaxes. And you can usually tell because the story is just so fantastic. But a lot of people, they'll give you the gist, and then you kind of have to kind of get the rest of the story out of them on the phone. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's not a lot of space on that form for the details.
Sure. And then what do you do after that, as far as your organization, or, kind of consoling them? What do you do therefore to feel that you've closed that case?
Right. Well, we do other research, like I said, on the websites and other different sources. You may want to, if you have Radar Tracker 24, I think that's what it's called. You can see what was flying in the sky that night, and you can either close it. Okay, we figured out it was the ISS, or if it's an old case, we may just close it as for information only, because we really can't get the weather data on anything really old.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some really great cases that I spoke to these people, but the cases were from the 60s. So I closed them as, either historical or for information only, should perhaps somebody else come forward and report the same thing for that time. So, I mean, it's not a perfect system, but we're really cataloging the cases, and that's a majority of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Bob's got another great question. This guy just is the man. Look at that. Great question, Bob.
Which direct up? I don't know. You don't know, right? You just got to keep an eye out. I wouldn't just point the camera. I'd have somebody actively searching.
Okay. So literally it's a matter of eyes on the sky, be relentless, and just and because as we well know with these things, if they're on a mission where they're going across and they're just moving it, there's not a lot of time where they may hover or do, and then but the ones that do, if you happen to be very mobile and able to get that camera from here to there, then you could potentially catch that next great evidence.
Perhaps, right? I hope you do. I really hope that somebody captures something, because I'd love to see it.
Yeah, Bob mentioned something about the East. He says he was kind of wondering if things kind of come from the East. So it's kind of just
It's hard to tell. I see one from Andy about Loring Air Force Base. I'm
Oh,
familiar
okay.
with it. It was still open when I first came to Maine. I was in the Navy. I was stationed in Brunswick, Maine, and I never really got to spend any time at the active Air Force Base up there. But I've heard stories of the sightings of the craft hovering over the armory. So the bunkers and armories up there.
Are there any resources, Fred, that you can give people who are really interested, that maybe either online or books, anything that you can give them that, you know, they are really interested and they want what you see as legitimate cases, that they can find, you know, visuals or reading material about them?
Hold on now.
UFO Fred.
I don't know if you're familiar with Cheryl Costa and Linda Costa, but they put out a book called the UFO Sightings Desk Reference, and this one's the United States 2001 to 2015, and it's statistics galore by county, by state, the shapes. It's a great resource, and they've recently released a new one. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, but
There we go.
it's called the UFO Sightings Desk Reference. But it's unidentified flying objects, frequency, distribution, and shapes, and Cheryl Costa and Linda Miller Costa. This is going to tell you where you live, how many sightings, what shapes they were. This is a data book. So
see there, and that's very cool, because as you start, if you're a data kind of person and you take that and you kind of, you know, spend time with it, you'd probably start to see a correlation as to, wouldn't you think, Fred, of how these sightings may be more in a time of year, possibly more maybe in a hemisphere or area of the United States, and then you could kind of start to think, okay, wow, there is a common. Is there that common denominator? Maybe if all the data.
it's data. There's so much of it. You just got to take one bite at a time. It's hard to tell. But another thing you can do is, if you've seen one in the past, talk to your siblings, because chances are they may have seen one as well and just never have talked about with you, right? Because I've seen things when I was a kid, and then talking to my brothers, I'm like, have you ever seen anything? And they're like, oh yeah, I saw one over that way when I was a kid. I saw this one over this way when I was a kid, but we never talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the ghosts in the house where I grew up. No one ever talked about it until we were older. They're like, did you ever see that? Oh yeah, I used to see that all the time.
That guy used to come up to the bar with mom and dad. I know it.
You know what I mean? We just never talked about it. I don't know what it was, but people need to talk to their family about things that they've seen in their house, or things, because chances are they've seen it as well. Just keeping their mouth closed.
That's an interesting point. It doesn't seem to be like with the days of me and you, and maybe with Kelly, that we sit at the table anymore with our family and have dinner. Bye, mom. Bye, dad. And it's so we just don't communicate. But speaking of communicate, Tracy's got a really cool little one up there around the 801 time period. What was the one publicized event that you knew was false that truly angered you?
I'm going to have to say the alien autopsy. And and the fact that they're marching it out again. Because having been in the military, I have to tell you, if there was truly an alien autopsy, it wasn't done by two chumps in a quiet room by themselves. Right? 1947. We had technology. We had color film. Right?
Fred, your humor, I knew it was going to be the case, but you're like these two chumps. These guys, really? They couldn't open a sandwich bag for lunch. But, it's like, come on. Really, these guys. But, oh, my goodness. Well,
before we get to the question, I have a question, Fred, kind of tying to what you had said prior. One of the most interesting and intriguing clients that I've worked with for readings had accounts of alien activity in her home, specific days and times they would come visit her. She described them the same. She talked about frozen time. She talked about it was always her daughter at the time. Kind of lapses in memory or just kind of a catatonic state when they were visited. Do you get a lot of in-home visitation reports, or is it mostly sky sightings?
Well, in regards to that, with the ERT, it's mostly in-home visitations, right?
Okay.
They may have had an event out and about, but usually what is happening is in their home. And people I've talked to, just generalized because I'm not allowed to give the details, people floating out of their house through the walls, that type of thing, being taken aboard very sterile craft, and just being looked at by different beings. But yeah, a lot of the people may have had an encounter, but then they have a separate encounter in their home.
Okay. Okay. That's really useful. I know a few people were wondering about that that are watching as well. And Tracy did ask too, do you see a correlation between crop circles and craft?
Good question.
I don't really have much experience with crop circles in Maine. It's just, it's not really a thing here.
Sure.
Right? Because it's mostly, 8 months out of the year is snow. So
right.
I'm sure out in the Midwest where there's crops that they may get reports of the crop circles, but it's just not a thing in Maine yet. Not yet. I'd welcome it. I'd like to go see one. It's it's a fascinating experience, I think.
Yeah, there ought to be like an award show for crop circles. Like, hey, this year's award for 2020 is Bob from Kansas. Congratulations on your crop circle thing. You win an husband's trade. Yeah. It's like, wow. Oh, man.
Speaking of going places, too. So Fred, for all of you listening and watching, is coming to the Warrens Paracon in Connecticut and is going to be speaking. So can you give a sneak peek about what you're going to talk about?
Well, I hope to. I'm not done yet. I'm still going through notes. Try to make the connection of UFOs and other paranormal events, right? Just like we were talking tonight. More people see one thing. They're more likely. I don't know if it's their freedom to see more things in their life and experience that. Right. But a lot of people, they've seen multiple things. And why is that? What is what I want to know? I'm fascinated by the connection of the paranormal.
Well, that would be a perfect tie-in to the place we're going to
that would be.
Well, I figured, right. I don't want to bore people with statistics.
You're not going to bore people.
That. No, that's great. I mean, I think there'll be a lot of people that'll come to you to hear you speak, not only because of their interest level, but because of your subject matter. I think that tie is so important. And of course, you have more conversations when you appear on shows like this with people who are involved in the paranormal, so you can link those and hear how those stories intertwine. So I think a lot of people would love to hear you speak on that, most certainly.
I'd also like to get audience participation. Maybe people can share some of their experiences. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to get people to open up. But
do you get to go to a lot of Paracons, so Fred? Because you bring up an interesting question.
I don't. I don't do much speaking at places
because I tell you, once you ask for people about what things with that, look at tonight and think of our audience here. Now imagine a sold out arena, the crowd, the people. Fred's in the house, the main card for the draw, and you're there. People get excited about this subject because they look towards the sky, towards credible people who brings this to the table and try to get these questions answered. And we just don't. A lot of people pull back from it. They're like, no statement. I have no statement at this time. I'm sorry to call. I'm sorry, we have no statement. And when that happens, they don't get answers. And then they're like,
right.
So that opportunity for you, I will tell you, besides the fact I say from this show, people are going to want to reach out to you.
Yeah, I was
And,
going to
and,
say
and
there's some questions too that we didn't
yes,
have time to get to or couldn't
but
get to tonight. So,
they
is
just
there a way
continue
for
through.
people? Right? Is there a way for people to reach you either online or?
Twitter under UFO Fred. Now I see a comment from Steve that I'm a skeptic. Well, the best researchers are skeptics.
Exactly. Know that, folks. That's one of the things, even as us as paranormal investigator researchers, we don't do our due diligence if we don't come up and think from the start. I'm coming up to this very guarded, because when Fred, myself, put our name on something and he calls it UFO, I call it paranormal, we hold ourselves tantamount to our reputation. And this, well, Fred told me that was a UFO. Keith said it was a demon. You just can't do that. You have to pull back and be
Right.
more professional and go about it with your due diligence. Then, after all your investigating research time, everything, if you're left not being able to put something on that and you're thinking, wow, that's very intriguing, it's a possibility, it is in fact possibly UFO or in fact paranormal.
Well,
so is that,
and I'm never going to tell you that it's a UFO. I'm going to tell you I have no idea what it is.
there you go.
Okay, that answers my
Right.
next question.
There,
I was going to say,
there's your answer, folks.
Yeah, well, the cases that you've interacted with and approached, people's stories very cautiously, and scientifically, I'm sure, have you been able to kind of find those commonalities to make you believe that there are more extraterrestrial encounters, or that people are then experiencing, as you said, maybe more paranormal?
I think it's about 50-50. I think with the pandemic in the last year, I think people are getting more of our parasitic attachments because of the negative energy in their lives. And I think that they feel that those are alien encounters.
Uh-huh.
Because, I do believe there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe. I am skeptic, but I am also a believer. So it's kind of weird. But
I like that you said that too. I've kind of shared that same concern with a lot of clients of mine as well, who've come forward, or people that have just said, oh my gosh, like over this time I'm experiencing all these amazing things. And that's true. There's an amazing side depending on your energy and how you're dealing with things. And then there's a side that you need to be very cautious of due to the opposing, so I really like that you worded it that way. I think that's a really important point.
Look what Bob said. He did say it. He says UFO means unidentified flying object. Key is unidentified. Like Fred said, I have no idea what it is. At the moment, is it unidentified? Absolutely. Is it one day going to be? Possibly. So that's where we lie with this. I got to tell you right now, I'm still, woo! I'm still pumped up, still got things I'm rocking this. I know this man's got things to do, has a life. I will tell you right now, without a doubt, this has been one, just by the comments, even alone. But with you, your humor, your intrigue, your folks, you got to reach out to this guy, because I would tell you, not only with the opportunity to get to learn from some things, but just what we've got from this and how we now are going to probably view things with our eye on the sky. And hey, I would say bring your camera, be patient, and spend your time, and you might be that person to send something to Fred, and Fred goes, intriguing. That's pretty interesting. Possibly maybe say, wow, you got something there, kiddo. But wow.
Just go out and look. Just enjoy yourself. Just have fun with it, right?
Well, thank you so much, Fred.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Big best friend of the house.
Oh my gosh!
Yes. I didn't know if I would have anything to talk about today. But
are you kidding me? I told you. I even Flip. Look at Flip, the man. This guy. I mean, Flip. There's no Flip. Even Bob's been around. Thank you, Keith Kelly. Enjoy the show. Nice hearing from you, Fred. These are people who have been around for a minute. So I mean, hello,
right.
And they're saying great show. So hats off to you.
Hey, thanks for having me, everybody.
Yeah,
I'm sorry I couldn't get to everybody's question, but
That's okay. They know where to find you.
They're still saying they're still saying thank you, Fred. Thank you, Fred. It's like, hardcore, 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 hardcore.
Well, anytime you would like to have me, let me know.
Yeah.
We can talk about something.
Sure, yeah. That sounds great. Well, do you have a moment to wait backstage?
Oh, sure do.
Okay. Thank you. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Big Bad Fred.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Well, this goes to show again. You look at Thomas Cardo's. All our people are loved. We're giving hugs right now. Hugs, fist bumps. All our peeps, Love and Light listeners. I will tell you at a time. Yeah, at a time with this right now with Kelly, but even a lot with me right now. I will just touch on the fact. It means a lot to me in this time and space in my life right now to have amazing people, but really amazing person, Kelly, that has been by my side and showing so much love and light. But for you folks to lift me up in these times, I will tell you, continue for your love and light, not only for us on this show, but the personal little fist bumps you give me, Keith. We know we love you. You are a great person, and I appreciate that because it means a lot to me in these times. I will just say that to that point. Thank you very much, and continue to be. But I would not be where I am these days right now with what I'm going through if it wasn't for Kelly Miller. I will just tell you that right now.
I think we have some of the best listeners and watchers as far as questions, as far as sharing the show. And there are some more prizes coming up for those of you who I saw comment about prizes online. So there are some more prizes coming up. So stay tuned for that. We're going to release some more little video segments and things on our Facebook and YouTube. And Instagram.
Cool.
We're on Instagram too.
There it is.
But thank you all for sharing
Steve Vinny Gonzo, our guy.
Yeah. And hi, Steve. I know I can say hi to you.
Yeah. Okay. I have to tell you, our beautiful, lovely, amazing Tracy Anton Smith won our first.
Oh my God! I just saw the comments. You guys. Oh.
Yeah, won that. How cool is that? But I will tell you. That is the first of many super cool different things we're going to do. And it is known as a segment of Know the Show. We do ask that you listen to the show thereof because it's truly fair to the listeners who were there in taking out their time of the day to be tuning in. So as you can understand, that's how it really kind of needs to be, right? And so Tracy won it. How cool is that? What a prize.
And you know what we're approaching, don't you?
Yes.
Paranormal Christmas season around October 31st. So stay tuned because there's going to be some special things.
I already got some stuff in the gift box, like right over here. There. I will tell you, when you get this one, you're going to be like, no. Like, no, you're with Tracy, she got it and couldn't believe it. She won. With these others, it's like, Keith, no. I'm like, yes, hello. And they're like, but we do this because we love you guys. We continue to do that. But it's just something that is from us to you. So there's that as. What a show tonight. How much fun. How cool.
It was so fun.
And kind.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. Okay. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Rock.
Good night.